Per usual, everything on this channel is for educational purposes only and is not intended as financial advice. I've been out the past week, but we are back. Markets are back. Last week I was saying everything just looked like it needed one more week, and that's about what it was. BTC hanging out here at 103. Cloud ready to flip bullish on the daily. At some point here, we probably get an RSI bear div. At some point, we probably consolidate at the old all-time highs. ETF flows haven't really picked up yet at this level. In the 100s yet, so we'll see what the flows are today from tomorrow. We'll see what the flows are next week. The biggest concern before this broke out was a low time frame head and shoulders possibility. It was a weak possibility, but it was there, and we just kept going. So BTC looks good on the daily, it looks good on the 4 hour, probably consolidating there. This is an alt video, so in the context of alts, what we want is BTC strength, but we don't want BTC absorbing everything in terms of dollars and attention. You know, if BTC is just zooming to 150, then alts are going to have trouble. Alts will do better if you get this stop-start phenomenon with BTC, where it goes a little bit, then alts catch up, goes a little bit, then alts catch up. What we've seen so far is barely the beginning of alt breakouts. We've seen the beginning of mean reversion. We haven't really seen much bullishness across the board. The only thing that's really following BTC is SWI. And that is up here now with a bear div on the daily. Cloud hasn't flipped bullish yet. So some of this stuff is in this awkward state where it is already has been so bullish, it doesn't really make sense to me to trade it up here. Buy and hold, fine. But I think there's better opportunities for trades. What you're looking for is what you got on BTC very quickly. You're looking for the edge-to-edge thing, which you didn't really get a great entry on, admittedly. There was a lower time frame inverted head and shoulders down here. There was a lazy sideways inverted head and shoulders diagonal possibility down there. But for me, the important part that's going on right now with alts is to capture the mean reversion, the 1.618 measured move of inverted head and shoulders fractals. The chart is more important than the ticker. The ticker is irrelevant. We can scroll down this list just as you can go to CoinMarketCap on page whatever, and you can find something that looks good. Say, okay, it doesn't matter. You don't need to ask me what I think, because all I'm going to tell you is if it's in the cloud with a bullish TK cross on the daily, the target should be somewhere on the other edge of the cloud. That's always step one. So for say it would be, I don't know, 30 to 44, whatever that is. The second target check or price level check would be fibs. Take the high to the low, use the wicks, don't use the wicks, that's up to you. You should get around about the same values. So again, it's like 46 to 62. So at that point, then you decide, does this make sense here in the context of everything else that's going on a relative basis? So yeah, you can go down page 3000 on CoinMarketCap and find something that fits this criteria. Volatility will be higher. Drawdown will be higher. Risk of that trade never actually playing out will be higher. You just have to realize that. But for the most part, even in legacy, there are a lot of charts that have this inverted head and shoulders stuff going on. So I'll come back to alts in a second, but on the other broad overview, from the index perspective, dominance has pulled back a little bit. Tons of people saying dominance has topped. Sure, like, okay, you know, we've been here before. Dominance doesn't need to top for alts to do well. Alts can still do well. It just doesn't mean they're going to do better than BTC collectively as a group. Dominance still very much bullish here. It could consolidate and keep going to infinity, right? Nothing says it has to stop here. The best time to be bearish dominance is when it breaks below the cloud. We're not there yet. Use the 5200, use the 1050 on the daily, use whatever you want. But my guess is nothing here is going to tell you that dominance looks bearish. It's just everyone's so desperate for anything on the alt side because that's what they've been sitting in. But dominance still fairly bullish where it sits relative to the cloud on the high time frames. Stablecoins kind of stopped printing up here collectively. Tether had a few prints this week, but it's not really something you want to see if alts are taken off. You want to see more flows. Similar to November, you had your breakout and then you just had continuous stablecoin prints. Now you could argue there was a giant divergence here because we had stablecoin prints from January to now and price kept going down. That's fair. Where total 2 sits in the cloud is about where, I guess on aggregate, a lot of things could sit, which is sort of too late for the entry. This is why I was saying last week, looks like we need about one more week for things to start breaking out. So there's really two objectives here. If you're completely sidelined, you're looking for laggards that have a chance. You're not looking for Hail Mary laggards. If you're in position, you're looking at where take profit levels are, and you're paying attention to trailing stop losses. That's it. There's really nothing else to do here other than wait for things to play out. It could take another week or two, even if we have a pullback here on BTC. There's also other things to think about here with regards to alts. There's coin against total 2. Coin has lagged total 2 here, so maybe there's a catch-up trade. Again, it does not matter what the ticker is. That is irrelevant. This is technical analysis. We can say for XYZ reason, this coin will do better than that coin. This coin has developers and transactions and whatever else. We can say this stonk has a PE multiple of whatever, and we can have some thesis about users. It doesn't matter. Okay, that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about technicals. If you look at coin, same deal. IHS, E to E, hasn't triggered yet, not in the cloud. Typically follows total 2 very closely. So if you're still bullish alts and you're looking for something that's lagging, in legacy land, this is one such chart. Same thought process, same path, same stop loss levels. Nothing changes. It's always the same. That's what the overlay is for. That's what the cloud is for. Back to alts against BTC for a second. The total 2 BTC chart, again, like this isn't going to tell you jump everything into alts here. This is it. This is the one. This is the bottom. Get in there, boys. That's not what this shows whatsoever. You need likely 36 months of bottoming activity. Last time we were down here, super volatile all over the place. Of course, COVID is in there, so that's going to be extra volatile. But ultimately, you want this above a high time frame cloud, and we're nowhere near that. What we're seeing now is the mean reversion stuff. We're seeing ETH BTC try to get back to the Tenkan because it's super, super sold off. We're seeing Solana pull up to a 50% retracement level. But this is not alt season. That hasn't started yet. So if you're really bullish alts, you're just in position and you're going on vacation because it's going to take some time for all this stuff to play out. This was alt season above the cloud. We are nowhere near the cloud still. I just wanted to talk about a few just relative to technicals, a few charts in legacy land. Again, it's Tesla. Everybody's got an opinion on Tesla. I don't care what the opinion is. The chart doesn't care what your opinion is. The last time I was bullish Tesla was 270 pre-election. That breakout happened, sort of got lost in crypto breakouts. And the same is the case here with the same setup. This could be the AVAX chart, right? Again, it does not matter. This looks like it is headed to 350. Now, will there be fundamental headwinds that Tesla may encounter that AVAX possibly wouldn't encounter? Absolutely. But technicals are the same. Bullish TK cross, price in the cloud, entry is today. That's how it works. I'm not taking this trade. I'm not saying you should take this trade. I'm just telling you this is how the system works. The last time you got an entry on this type of trade was back here in May, June. Bullish TK cross, price in the cloud. It took a minute to play out. You got a broader inverted head and shoulders, and then away it went. This could take time. This could take some momentum to get going, and it could shoot well past 350. But we'll see what that looks like when it gets to it. And it's a similar case for Sol. When I talk about Sol at 195, that's the level. Why is that the level? Because that's what the cloud says is the level. It's not, I'm just making this up. It's not, I have some bullish thesis on Solana because of pumped on fun. Nothing to do with any of that. It does not matter. That is not what technicals are looking at. So Tesla's level is 350. Also interesting that RIVN, similar deal here. Multiple year downtrend starting to break out above a high time frame cloud. Hasn't started yet. But relative to the cloud, this is getting interesting. You've got LYFT breaking out today on the cloud. Again, starting to get interesting. It's consolidated for years. Something to continue to watch. And Uber also up here looking particularly bullish. So there's other stuff to trade that isn't crypto. I don't think this stuff's going to outperform crypto. I find it interesting from a student of the cloud perspective to see, does the Tesla edge-to-edge workout, does RIVN blast off at 17? Is LYFT ready to go at 18? And are we going to see bullish continuation on Uber? For NFTs, I always like to look at these real quick. 6 month has shot up quite a bit on the 6 month look back just because of ETH moving up, obviously. these do not look like they're at some crazy valuations yet. So this is more of like a risk sentiment gauge where, is this the beginning or the end of an altcoin rally? It certainly doesn't look like the end if we expect NFTs to just skyrocket to infinity, right? There's Pudgy Penguins down there at 26K. The numbers aren't important, really. It's the relative value to where it was, how long is it consolidated, and what can that tell you about the broader alt ecosystem? Some people may say, we don't have QE yet, so alts can't do well. I think alts can still get a decent mean reversion, but it doesn't mean we're going to see alt season. And of course, watches, not much has happened down here. Still looks to be consolidating on the watch chart. I like to look at that because I feel like there's a lot of watch and NFT crossover. This video, of course, is sponsored by Kraken Pro. If you do not have a Kraken account, you can correct that mistake by clicking on the link in the description of this video. So daily BTC looks fine. It could pull back. It could do a bunch of stuff. There's really nothing to do here. You didn't really get great entries on the daily for the cloud just because it happened so quickly. But you did have a bunch of signs that things were trying to bottom. You had this low time frame, inverted head and shoulders. You had a high time frame, inverted head and shoulders. You had a high time frame falling wedge. Cloud will flip bullish here in a couple of days, or today. The TK lines will pull up to price. You'll get a level, a Kijun level somewhere in the 90s at some point. You may get a bear div here. There's lots of stuff to watch. None of it has happened yet. So let's talk about ETH. What you want from alts is 2x BTC performance. I don't care about drawdown and volatility. If BTC is up 5% on a day, I expect any alt that I'm in to be up 10% at least. When you see something like ETH where it's up as much as it is in a day, oddly for me, that's kind of like too much too soon. Now, of course, it is pulling up after being down and getting beaten down for a long time. But the issue here is, which comes first? Are people rotating out of stuff and into ETH, or are they rotating out of ETH finally and rotating into other stuff because ETH was up 20% in a day, 30% in a 24-hour period, whatever it was? Last week, we were talking about a few things on ETH. I still think there were better looking charts. It is what it is. ETH is up, probably something to do with a little short squeeze as well. This is not an ideal setup or entry because what happened? The move happened on the same day you're getting the entry for the system on the cloud, right? So when things start to look decent to you personally, you have to start to cheat it a little bit. That way, or at least at the table. Daily ETH, nowhere near being bullish. Closer to the edge-to-edge target, not really a clean, there's a bunch of levels here, right? So it's not really a clean exact level. Ultimately, this doesn't get bullish again until November 2024. That's what you're looking for. So this could take you into Q4. That's going to be the next trade here. This may consolidate, tap some level here, but from a setup perspective, based on technicals alone, what is there to do here? You're either buying and holding, or you're probably trading something else. I just don't think there's much to do here on ETH. On the weekly, still below the cloud. So is this a V bottom? Is it going to be an Adam and Eve eventually? Is it going to revisit sub 2K? I don't know. I have no idea. Do I have high conviction on any of this stuff to the long side here? No, I just don't. I didn't down here. You could say, well, there was a dragonfly, and maybe on April 21st, things started to look better on the weekly. Maybe on the daily, you had some sort of inverted head and shoulder thing here, right? Nothing was super, super clean. It was probably just the case that it was down a lot over a short period of time. So I don't have a clean read here for ETH. I would expect something 2,500 plus, but I do think there's better risk reward trades elsewhere at the moment. Ripple still in the range. Nothing to say here at all. You could say, well, there's an inverted head and shoulders here-ish, low time frames, but risk reward relative to everything else in X time period. If you're bullish this week for next week, do you expect Ripple to break out? I don't. If yes, then where? If yes, to 5? Do you expect it to hit 5 next week? I don't. Could it hit 5 in a year from now? Maybe. But if we're talking week to week here, it still doesn't make sense to me to trade Ripple. Sol was one of the coins that had been setting up nicely with bullish TK cross, price in the cloud. You can see how it took its time at the cloud level. It gave you a decent entry, sort of this lazy move into the cloud, and then broke out. That's what you want to see. You just have to have the confidence to actually pull the trigger when it looks like nothing is going on. That is where the overlay, that is where the cloud comes into play here. It was screaming at 140, 145, whatever that is. And here we are. To me, Sol looks like the better trade relative to ETH still. It looks like it has a little bit more left in the bone still relative to ETH. I like that this was flat versus ETH just continuing to decline. That isn't to say you should jump out of ETH and jump into Sol, not a recommendation. I just think the Sol levels make a little more sense to me. They're a little cleaner. Sol weekly looks like a mess still, not really much going on there. It is above the cloud, but there's no discernible anything. It's still in the range. So I like 195. 215 would be the stretch target probably, but if you look at these relative to what happened to SWI, what did this do? It went into the cloud early relatively, got there basically in 2 days, sat there, it did nothing for like 2 weeks, right? But the target was reached and then a decision was made after that. So if you're trading ETH or Sol here, you don't really have that much wiggle room. And the next trade I would like on SWI would be a full cloud bullish setup, which may not happen until June. This looks fine as a buy and hold, but as an entry today for next week, doesn't really make too much sense. ETH BTC we can talk about, still below the daily, still not in the cloud there. This is what you want. You want this to be weak, to pull back, to give you a better entry. I think Doge is probably the best example. Yeah, so you got everything flatlining for months. Bullish TK cross a couple days ago, price in the cloud for the first time since February, yesterday. Now, look at this risk reward, right? And we can, in my head, I'm just doing this, but I guess we can draw this out. So I went long Doge yesterday. Here's your target. Your risk is a right shoulder, the cloud, the Kijun. Those three things always, whatever lower low is. Okay, so this is your risk reward. Looks pretty good. Looks better than ETH to me here. Looks better than Sol to me here. We're talking about today for next week or the week after. We're not talking about what has already happened. This to me is the best looking setup probably in the moment on USD pairs. You have a very clean neckline. You have a very clean entry into the cloud, and it hasn't run away from you yet. So I really like this chart. Probably the second favorite would be Sol BTC because the same reasons, same rationale. Again, it has nothing to do with the ticker. You have to throw that away. Okay, you're looking at the chart. You're looking at the back-tested, forward-tested technicals. That's it. What does this have? This has a bullish TK cross price in the cloud, flatline, multi-month inverted head and shoulders here. Target is super clean. 0020 whatever. Okay, fine. So you don't need to ask me, what about this alt that I've never heard of on page 3000? If it looks like this, love it. Absolutely love it. The best setup you can get for an edge-to-edge mean reversion. This is the textbook. That's it. This you're looking at. It doesn't get better than this on Sol BTC or Doge USD. That is best case scenario for trades like this and this setup. Will you get stopped out of either of these? No clue. Will either of these hit the target? Also no clue. All I know is that the setup looks great. Entries look great. For a couple weeks, I had said Pepe had also looked really good. One of the reasons why I liked it is because, again, it pulled back 80%, went sideways for months, and it started to get into the cloud. Is there a trade here on Pepe? No. The trade was the week prior and the week before. That was the entry. You just have to have the conviction to take it. So, no, I don't like Pepe here. We are closer to the exit than the entry, clearly, right? What would you do if you had a position here, hypothetically? Well, you could sell some of it. You could sell 20% of it. You could sell a quarter of it. You could sell 50% of it. And maybe rotate into something else, like Doge, like Sol BTC, whatever. Better trades, better setups that have not moved yet. Will either of those other trades outperform Pepe in the long run? I have no idea. We're talking about next week. That's all. We're not looking at 6 months from now. So this does have a little bit left to run on fibs. It does have a little bit left to run on the cloud, but the risk reward relative to everything else just isn't there today, right? It moved, 30, 40% yesterday. It's not going to move that much tomorrow, right? That's just math. The other thing I really liked about Pepe is it was ETH beta. So if ETH moved, which it did, then Pepe was going to move twice as hard, which it did, which is what you're supposed to see. That's supposed to happen. It's not going to happen every time. But if you're trading meme coin trash, you need to get paid for taking that risk. And then you did get paid for taking that risk in this case. So this video is already long enough. Let's quickly go through the rest of this list here. Fartcoin daily doesn't really have a cloud yet. 4 hour looks fine. Again, it's like, what do you do with this here? Is it better to rotate into other stuff? Probably. This is up 4x from the low. Maybe it's better to move into something else that hasn't moved 4x from the low. Cardano is still sitting in the range here on the daily, trying to break out. You could argue, best case, if I had to put my Cardano bull goggles on, you could argue this is either a falling wedge or a channel that it's breaking up from. Ultimately, I want all of the cloud signals to be bullish. So we're not quite there yet. Does this look better than Ripple? Yes. Does it look better than Doge? No. Does it look better than Sol BTC? No. Does it have more upside than Pepe? Maybe. Right? It's hard to tell. But I would really think about these in a relative value basis rather than just in a vacuum. I like Cardano, great, rah, rah, right? That could be some of your portfolio, the rah, rah Cardano slice. But if you're trading, there's probably other stuff that looks better. Trump, I just would never touch for any reason. There's just too much idiosyncratic nonsense there. It is back above low time frame clouds. Are there better trades elsewhere? From a technical perspective, absolutely. I guess you could argue cup and handle. I don't know. I just think it's not worth trying to trade that. Better stuff to trade elsewhere. Ondo, bullish ticket cross price in the cloud. Looks good. Is this going to outperform Doge? I doubt it. But maybe, right? Maybe. I doubt it, but maybe. We're talking about next week and the week after, not 6 months from now. Keep that in mind. If I say Ondo and you think RWAs, you're already way far down the path. That's not what this is about. We're just looking at the technicals here. So yeah, if you're bullish RWAs, you can have your RWA rah-rah slice to hold Ondo. The technicals look fine, right? It's trying to break out of the channel. It's trying to get into the cloud. It does have some technical tailwinds. You could argue some fundamental tailwinds with the RWA stuff, but I still like Doge here over Ondo. LTC didn't really get a great anything here from a setup perspective. Maybe you could argue inverted head and shoulders or something. Ultimately, you want this like it was in November. If you're ever confused at what cloud breakouts should look like for entries, just go back to last Q4. Almost everything had a beautiful setup there from the cloud perspective. So this could take another several months potentially to get a clean entry on this. Still like Doge here over LTC. Tau above the cloud on the daily flipping bullish here in the next few days. Pretty overbought relative to the Kijun, the mean reversion type discussion there. 4 hour still looks good. The question isn't, is this bullish so much as, is it an entry today? It is bullish. This could morph into like something like this, some mega inverted head and shoulders with a diagonal here, right? That's possible. And the same is possible for BTC. If we go to this, this might be the nightmare for some people, right? Let's say we're done for Q2. That's it. This is what we got. Take it. Love it. And Q3 is this into Q4, right? And then we get this mega year-long head and shoulders, and then we finally full send it end of cycle stuff, October, November, December, right? Possible, very possible that this could be it for the quarter. I don't think we're quite there yet to call this a slam dunk, it's over for the quarter, but something to think about in the back of your mind to look for if we do start rejecting all-time highs hard, right? Curve was an early mover through the cloud at this point from an edge-to-edge setup. Are we closer to the exit or the entry? Clearly, we're closer to the exit, both on time and price. It has done very well in the face of everything else. So this trade, as an idea, is probably done. It's over here at this point. That doesn't mean it can't keep going. It doesn't mean it won't consolidate and break out in a bullish fashion. Just the initial mean reversion, consolidation, breakout has been fulfilled largely at this point. If we turn on the fibs, you can see there's a fib at 1618, slightly lower than where price reached. There's a stretch target at 095. All that's still possible. We may see that, but entry, exit, buy, sell, or hold. This looks like a sell here today to me. Again, relative to everything else, not just, like Curve, rah-rah, stablecoin, Genius Act, blah, 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 right? Fine. That is not what we're talking about here. We're just talking about technicals, mean reversion setups. Where is a dollar best placed today? Popcat, beautiful entry, beautiful breakout, closer to a sell than a buy. And at this point, you've missed this trade. If you haven't been trading it, exits, again, the cloud, you can measure fibs, take the high, take the low. We're about in the wheelhouse, or we'll be approaching that shortly. That's it. That's all you do. Doesn't get harder than that. Doesn't get more complex than that. Link, similar to Doge, a very good entry here, fully formed IHS, edge-to-edge trigger conditions, bullish TK cross, price in the cloud. This may pull back, it may not, who knows? The risk reward is still there. Anything below 15 looks great from a buy perspective. Stop loss would probably be at 13. Would a rotation from curve to link make sense? Probably. Would a rotation from Pepe to link make sense? Probably. Add Doge to that conversation. For whatever reason, from memory, Doge and link, I think, actually move together most of the time. So this looks good. I like Doge to 20 from 15. AVAX is another one. Looks great. Bullish TK cross, price in the cloud. Flatline for months. Looks closer to an entry than exit down here. So I would add AVAX to that list of coins that I like. Aave got a big move yesterday, kind of in the middle of the cloud here. Really not a great entry point here. Still bullish. Still looks like it has plenty of room to run in the tank. Just a little late from an entry perspective. XLM does have a great looking chart. You know, I thought I'd click on this and say, all right, next chart, nothing to see here, but it does have an IHS. It does have edge to edge. Again, like it doesn't matter. As much as I wouldn't trade XLM, would it meet entry criteria exactly? Absolutely. Beautiful looking chart. Huge downtrend, multi-month downtrend. This looks good to 36 or thereabouts. So beyond this video, right, it's obviously up to you. What do you do? Do you do anything at all here? Do you trade any of this stuff or not? Monero, there's these fanatical Monero people who all they trade is Monero, and they don't really trade Monero so much as just, you know, that's their life, which is fine. It looks good. It looks very strong. It's above the weekly. This could be all-time highs for Monero. I think it is, somewhere in the 500s. It looks great. There's no denying it. You know, there's nothing to do if you've been long Monero. It looks fine. Are there other coins that are going to outperform? Yes. Will other coins have bigger drawdowns, bigger volatility? Yes. But Monero still looks great. On the weekly, on the daily, looks fine. Does it make sense to have some of your portfolio in Monero? Maybe. Do I like it here as a trade? Not personally. I just think there's better stuff to trade. But the chart looks great. Bonk, daily, closer to the exit than the entry. But you got bottomy stuff after a huge downtrend. So Bonk looks good here. WIF looks better to me if I had to choose between the two as an entry. You're getting clearly some sort of IHS fractal with edge-to-edge conditions, E to E, etc., etc. Looks good. Do I like this over Pepe here? I do, because Pepe has moved, this has not. So in a relative value conversation, WIF makes sense. Peanut is a great example of one of these, like on page 3000, where you just get insane volatility. So was there anything to do here from a daily cloud perspective? Not really. I mean, it moved sort of in front of you before it gave you the entry. This stuff is just not for me. You know, the type of person that trades this is probably not the type of person employing similar cloud strategies on the daily, right? Back to Sol BTC, that looks great, excellent, textbook. Print it out, put it on your wall, put it on your ceiling. When you go to bed, you can stare at it at night. This is exactly the edge-to-edge type setup you're looking for. STX, closer to the exit than the entry here on the daily. Still looks very good. This is BTC beta, so it should be up 2x BTC. FET, Tau, Render, the AI stuff all looks very good to me. Probably closer to the exit than an entry here, but you know, you kind of got the entry a little late. You're getting IHS stuff here. You could still measure this out and justify it and say, well, I think it's going to here versus the cloud. You know, that's possible, but that looks great. CAS, BTC beta looks okay, but I'd wait for the full bull on the cloud. ENA was up a bunch yesterday. Also starting to look good. Bullish TK cross today or tomorrow. Price in the cloud within the next week or two. Funding could be more positive today. I'd have to check, but as funding rips extremely positive, that's generally when ENA does better. So if you have an opinion on that, then it makes more sense to allocate into this if you think funding is going to be super positive. But I think it's in the conversation with Doge, AVAX, Sol BTC as a chart that looks tradable down here. SHIB, beautiful IHS down there, price in the cloud, bullish TK cross. This looks good. Is it closer to the exit or the entry? That's the question. This doesn't really look like it's broken out yet. So it still looks okay to me as an entry, honestly. I skipped over Pengu, but that one went up a bunch. Entry or exit here, closer to the exit, in my opinion. You know, some of this stuff that's up 2-3x from lows, probably better trades elsewhere. That isn't to say this stuff can't keep running. It's just, what do you do today for next week if that's your mindset? If your mindset is 6 months from now, then it's a different story. But if your mindset is 6 months from now, you're probably not trading peanut either, right? What you really need to do is take all these charts relative to BTC and see what they look like. But for the most part, everything is setting up very nicely. There's some very obvious setups here. Just checking Link ETH really quick. That was another one this is basically the LYFT chart, right? You know, it's above a weekly cloud level, trying to break out, has a multi-year sideways consolidation. So we'll stop there. Give me a like, dislike, comment, share, subscribe. I think we're going to do a stream later today, so look out for that. Plenty of options out there in altcoin land, and happy trading.